After 118 years and not a few rebuildings, the Penny Bridge was canceled. Saturday, May 23, 1914, the Brooklyn Times-Union. Penny Bridge to be replaced. $300,000 structure for Newtown Creek. Span dates back to 1796. Commissioner Crack at back of improvement. The old Penny Bridge is doomed. After a conference with representatives of the Board of Estimate today, informal announcement was made at the Public Service Commission chambers that the little span, known officially as the Meeker Avenue Bridge across Newtown Creek, will be demolished to make way for a new and larger arch. The new structure will be 200 feet to the east of the present location on the Brooklyn side and 350 feet on the Queens side. By this plan, the Long Island Railroad grade crossing at Laurel Hill Boulevard will be eliminated. The Commission has been working to that end for a month. The final order will be issued next month. When the new bridge is erected and the old structure destroyed, an invitation will be issued to the BRT company to extend the 4-track road that now stops at the bridge through to Celtic Park and Bowery Bay. The city officials are confident that the company will consent. At present, only shuttle service is operated on the Queens side of the span. New bridge secured by Crack. Bridge Commissioner Crack is the father of this plan, and its adoption is looked on as a victory for him. The new bridge will be of the askew lift type employed in crossing the creek at Vernon Bridge. Commissioner Crack has already applied for $300,000 from the Board of Estimate to build it. On the Brooklyn side, Townsend Street will be extended to Meeker Avenue at its intersection with Nassau Avenue. The triangular plot of ground which the extension will leave will be acquired by the city. The bridge will come to grade at Gardner Avenue and Townsend Street. The new bridge will be made commodious enough to care for 3 times the traffic of the present bridge. The chief reason for the change in the style of the span is that the War Department has refused to permit any more center swing bridges over Newtown Creek. First bridge built in 1796. The Penny Bridge dates back more than a century. The first span was built in 1796 to permit people to cross over from Astoria to Cherry Point, afterwards changed to Greenpoint. In 1836, the Newtown and Bushwick Bridge and Turnpike Company was incorporated. It continued the road to Williamsburg by the second Penny Bridge, built on stone piers, and the Shell Road. Wednesday, February 13, 1907, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Towerman and flagman charged with homicide. Held for coroner's action in funeral coach tragedy at Penny Bridge. Many tragedies occur there. One gate at crossing is said to have been down as coach reached tracks. With the arrest on a charge of homicide of flagman Charles McAvoy and towerman Hugh J. Connell, who had charge of the Penny Bridge crossing of the Long Island Railroad, where Everett K. Terwilliger and his wife Nellie, together with a friend Miss Sarah Halliday, were killed, and James Healy, a coachman, seriously injured yesterday. Coroner Ambler of Queens County will endeavor to fix the responsibility for the accident. Conflicting stories are now told concerning the position of the gates at the time the returning funeral coach drove on the tracks in front of the oncoming westbound Far Rockaway Express, and it will take a judicial investigation under oath to unravel the true from the false. The coach in which Mr. Terwilliger and his wife and Miss Halliday were riding was following the hearse which preceded them and had just swung clear of the tracks on the way to Penny Bridge, not more than 150 feet away. The coach containing the Terwilliger party was squarely on the tracks when the locomotive in charge of engineer Edward Elliot rounded the curve under full speed and on a downgrade. At this moment, it is said that one of the gates at the crossing was down, presumably the one behind the Terwilliger coach, to shut off the remainder of the funeral party, while the gate leading toward the bridge, the direction in which the coach was going, was still open. But whether the gateman had miscalculated the speed of the approaching train, or whether Healy, who drove the coach, through fright or benumbed by the biting cold, failed to hurry his team over the crossing, will probably only be made known on the coroner's examination. From the moment the locomotive came in sight, a collision was inevitable. There were frantic blasts of the whistle as Engineer Elliot put on the air brakes. Fire flew from the slipping wheels of the locomotive and passenger coaches as the train almost buckled itself under the sudden reducing of speed. Then there was a terrific crash. Striking the coach about the center, the pilot of the locomotive picked up the big box with its occupants and hurled it 20 feet down the track toward the left-hand side, where there is a picket fence. Striking the fence, the wrecked vehicle rolled back on the track again and was ground to kindling wood under the wheels of the locomotive. Mrs. Terwilliger and Miss Halliday occupied seats in the rear of the coach and were instantly killed. Terwilliger, who sat facing them, was horribly injured and died later in St. Catherine's Hospital, Brooklyn. Knocked from his seat by the force of the collision, Healy fell alongside the track and was struck by the passing locomotive. He was terribly injured and was also removed to St. Catherine's Hospital. One of the horses was killed, the other escaped. Penny Bridge is located in Laurel Hill on the outskirts of Long Island City, and ever since the closing up of Bradley Avenue, that section is completely cut off from Long Island City proper. It is only reached now by walking the railroad tracks or driving through a portion of Calvary Cemetery. Penny Bridge Crossing, where the accident occurred, is the second link in the sweeping bend on the main division of the Long Island Railroad, known as Dead Man's Curve. This curve begins west of Penny Bridge at the Greenpoint Avenue crossing and bends around in a wide arc between rows of chemical works, oil yards, and factories, extending eastward to and beyond Haberman's Agate Ware Factory at Berlin, a distance of about 1 mile. It is all downgrade from the eastern point of the curve, clear into Long Island City, and it is a regular speedway for engineers in making up lost time. Sometimes a daily victim is claimed by this curve. They are principally workmen who, owing to an absence of roads in that section, use the tracks as a thoroughfare on their way to and from their work. So many workmen have been killed along this stretch of track that big bells are hung all along the curve at the gateways leading from the factories and yards to the tracks, and a watchman is stationed in a small tower close to the track who rings the bells as a warning at the approach of an oncoming train. Terwilliger was employed as a clerk in a New York tailoring store and lived with his wife and Miss Halliday, a friend of the family, at 247 7th Street, Jersey City. They had been married 3 years and had no children. Connell and McAvoy are both arraigned before Magistrate Smith in the Long Island City Police Court this morning and held to await the action of the coroner. It is difficult to tell the exact history of each Newtown Creek Bridge, especially as they would be destroyed and rebuilt on several occasions. An 1882 history of Queens reports that the Penny Bridge was built in 1836, giving the Queens neighborhood of Laurel Hill access to Brooklyn. Queens resident John Bragaw, a descendant of French Huguenot immigrants who lived from 1777 to 1833, described that one way to the city, Manhattan from Queens, was over the Penny Bridge to Grand Street Ferry, Williamsburg, about 4 miles.